Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kesharwani, working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in School of Management Studies. Being a course coordinator of this particular course called Research Methodology and Statistical Analysis, I am going to talk today on the preamble part of business research, which revolves around, what exactly the research is, what is business research, and what exactly the research methodology is. Because when you go more into the depth of this research methodology, you have to find out that methodology is nothing but a pedagogy. It's a modus operandi. It's a procedure by which the research is going to be done. As far as this particular course is concerned, which is part of our MCOM program, that is Master of Commerce, and the course code is MCO-03, Research Methodology and Statistical Analysis. So if you go more into the depth of this particular course, you will find out that this particular course, MCO-03, talks about research methodology and the various analyses which are fruitful as far as the research is concerned, because today research is somewhat more talking about the statistics and the literature reviews and the more use of technology. So technology is something which could be softwares which are going to facilitate the researchers or the learners in building the data. And when you go more into the depth of the data, you will find out that there are various kinds of data. There are the data which are secondary data, considered to be available, and on the other hand, the first hand data which used to be collected by the researchers. So when you go more into the depth of this research methodology, you will find out that this research methodology is going to talk about various aspects. So when we are going more into the depth of the business research, we see business research is one of the ingredients of the research, and research is something which is a very old phenomena, and it was it is a very long time affairs and was there from the very first day. So but later, at the later stage, what we observed that the business, the corporate house, the e-commerce portals, or we talk about the academicians are now using the research in a more massive manner. The intention is very clear that whatever the gap is there, on the basis of the gap, the first hand information need to be extracted, and that and those first hand information are particularly used for this purpose. So anyway, if we go and talk more about this particular paper, that is research methodology and statistical analysis, it is bifurcated into 5 blocks, and each block consists of 4 to 5 units. So in total we have got 18 to 20 chapters, and the first block talks about the research and data collection. So when you go and talk more about the research is someone say it's an art, it's in science. So while going into the detailed definition of the research, we will see how the research is changing with the change of time, how the technology is changing the research, how technology is facilitating the humans or the computer applications, which are definitely going to add a feather in a cap, and by that the research had gone in a different shape. So it's when technology enters into research, it's bring a paradigm shift, and how that shift is helping the society by and large, or the individual, or the students, or the teachers, or the academicians, or the education industry. So research is something which is a need of an hour, and everywhere you find out that this is an important ingredient as far as the footfall of the company is concerned, or the movement is concerned. So we will talk about various aspects, how the research is, what exactly the definition of the research is, and when you are going to link with the business, how it is going to become more fruitful, and how it is helping to the corporate world, or the business, or to the e-commerce industry, because the commerce industry had changed a lot. And as far as our commerce graduates are concerned, or the commerce students are concerned, or the masters in commerce students are concerned, those who are pursuing their MCOM, there is a great use, because if you have a backbone of research, ultimately once you accomplish your postgraduate degree and move into the further studies, like the doctoral programs or the MPhil or PhD, you will find out that there is a great use of research, because this if you have a knack of research methodology, ultimately very easily you can work on it and excel your research, and finally this can lead to to the first-hand information. So we will throw a light on various aspects. This is the preamble chapter, which just talks about the curtain raiser to business research, and gradually you will find out we are going to talk more about the various aspects which are helping and facilitating the researchers or the technocrats in doing a research. So the first block talks about research and data collection, and when you talk about the data collection is could be the collection of secondary data or the primary data. And when we go more into the depth of primary data, you find out that that this is a data which need to be in first hand manner and collected from the respondents. And for that there are certain procedures. We will definitely throw a light on that how the data collection procedure started, framing the gap, then finding out the objective, and finally floating the questionnaires to the respondents. And once respondents reciprocate, then we accumulate all those data or collect the data, and finally what happened, then start using the data or reframing the data or customize the data as per our need and utility. So this is where you find out that data collection is going to play a very important role, and there are certain procedures, there are certain modus operandi which navigate the researchers or the individual to collect the data. It's not like that you can just frame the objectives and on the basis of that put certain questionnaires, because if you talk in the today's scenario, the data is very gigantic in nature. It's having a huge shape. So how you're going to extract the information from that data, because when you're going to extract, when you're going to narrow down or extract the data, it's really a very cumbersome process, because the data is in lakhs, in thousands, or in billions. How you're going to narrow down, how you're going to filter down, that is more important. So what I mean to say that this kind of model need to be taken care in a quite contemporary manner, that and we are going to definitely touch on all those aspects in a gradual manner, because this is a 6-credit course of MCOM, and in this 6-credit course we are roughly having 60 lectures which are going to touch on the various aspects, starting from the data collection, literature review, objectives, hypothesis, then sampling and universal is also there, because when you're going to filter down, that is more important, because your universal is quite big, and your sample size could be something which could be feasible in nature. So how you're going to do all those things, that need to be taken care. On the other hand, there are certain FAQs also which can definitely facilitate the learners to know that what are the questions, what are certain questions which comes in their mind, that how they are going to filter or hit the particular domain. So that we are going to touch again. And processing and preservation of data, how are you going to preserve the data which is going to be useful. So there are certain the technology which is there, because again what I was talking about, the data and analysis, or the nomenclature of data is changing with the change of time. There was a time when data was just name, email or mobile, but right now the data is something over and above to that. Data is now real-time data, and when e-commerce companies or the commerce portals or the business tycoons try to analyze the consumers' perceptions, in that case this analysis is going to play a very important role, because this analysis can provide them a roof, provide them a platform, that how they are going to know the taste about the consumers. And on the basis of that, that is where the business research is going to play a very important role, because we have already talked in our preceding lectures that business is nothing but how to regulate, how to integrate the consumers and the employees, and finally the intention is to generate a profit, so that the balance sheet of the company goes, as far as the profit is concerned, can go up. So these are the ways by which the things are going. And relational and trend analysis, there are certain trend analysis which can known, because future forecasting or the analysis there, and what are the trends which are going to put the set, because the very good example is the pandemic stage or the lockdown stage. So if you start finding out that that the sectors which had been deteriorated, or the economy or the GDP had gone down, what is the reason behind that, and now you see there are certain industries which are coming up during this lockdown periods, like the automobile industry, the car industry market is going up day by day. The reason is that there is less use of public transport, so people are depend on their own personal transport. So that is where it has had given a boost to the automobile industry. Agriculture industry is coming up in a big manner, and we have seen that the sale of the tractors and sale of the other the equipments which are interlinked with the agriculture is going up. So these are the relational things which are going to, and so definitely we are going to talk on certain things. There are certain tools, there are certain parameters which need to be taken care, and how these trends are and relational analysis are changing, that need to be important. So probability and hypothesis testing is there, and we are going to use and talk about certain probabilistic approaches, and hypothesis testing is there because either it could be null or alternate. We will talk about all those things, and then interpretation reporting, that is more important, because finally if you have started learning a literature or review the literature, then the second part is the research methodology, which talks about that what could be the pedagogy, and the third is the data collection, then data interpretation, and then putting all those things in a report format, in a detailed project report. Because if you have done everything, if you have collected a data, you have done you have exhaustively worked on the primary data and collected some first-hand information, but not able to put that thing in a proper shape, in a reporting format, or interpret this again, this is not going to fulfill the things. And so best part is that one should always try to follow this procedure. So the intention behind this research methodology and statistical analysis is that starting on a layer to layer basis. The tier 1 talks about research and data collection, the tier 2 talks about processing and preservation of data, then relational and trend analysis, probability and hypothesis testing, and finally interpreting the other things, and then putting and formulate all those things in a report format. So if you see this particular thing, this if you talk about the methodology is if you go into the backdrop of this Venn diagram, you find out that philosophy is a system of belief and knowledge that provides global influential framework. That is very true. And philosophy is more about abstraction and knowledge, thinking and attitude. And if you see the bigger circle starts from the philosophy, which is just nothing but a concept building. When we are going to start a research or initiate our research, we are in the inception stage. We just try to explore many things, and as far as exploring of literatures, the various literatures. If I am going to do my research on e-commerce, or so I will start learning many things about the e-commerce, what could be the pedagogy of e-commerce, how this e-commerce is going to work, and who are the players who are dominating this e-commerce business, blah blah blah. So this is nothing but give individual about the basic framework. So philosophy talks about that basic framework, because once you go through the basic framework, then only you can able to know what exactly the scenario is. And when you are able to go into the depth of scenario, then you started narrow down, then you started filtering the other things, and from there the approach matters. And that is where in the beginning stage as a researchers, when you are going to start your research, you should go through or mug up n number of literatures, but the literature should be full of directions. It should not be directionless. So if your research revolves around e-commerce, or your research revolves around customer habits or consumer behavior, then your literature should be in that perspective only. So this is not going to give learners a roof, but build the basic framework. And once the basic framework develops, then the things can go in a more systematic manner, because the system says that first you go through n number of, so starting with 100 literatures, 200 or 500, and then narrow down to to 150 or something which can give the clear glimpse about that. So this could be the pedagogy where philosophy is is a bigger circle, and if you see this approach is also part of that philosophy, but the size of the circle is quite smaller now as compared to the philosophy, and you have narrowed down and you are just concentrating on approach, how the interlinkages are there and how your research is somewhat overlap with that. So then if you see the other circle, that is called methodology. So this methodology is nothing but talking about a combination of approach and philosophy. So philosophy is a broader term, approach is a little broader, and methodology is a cream of that, a filter of that. So methodology is an action focus. So whatever the action you are going to done, whatever the execution so research methodology is nothing but the research, the concept which you have built up, and the pedagogy we are using, the modus operandi, so then it could be action focused and going to give you certain results, because if you are not going to narrow down yourself, ultimately you are not going to conclude yourself to the particular results. So methodology can always emphasize, always inclined on getting the result oriented work. So when you talk about the research methodology, at the end we have seen that finally things would work certain layers, and the final layers talks about how the things are going to be done. So anyway, if you see this methodology in a more elaborative manner, you will find out that methodology is the systematic theoretical analysis of the methods applied to a field of study. So what we have observed that it is a systematic work. It's not like that that you have started thinking about or reading about certain things. There must be certain methodology, there must be certain algorithm, there must be certain mathematics behind it. So that is the reason we say that research is in science and research is in art, or it could be algorithm or mathematics, because when you are talking about the mathematics, you are more meticulous and you are going to apply or formulate the things in a more systematic manner. And there are certain systems, there are certain the protocols which need to be maintained. So methodology is the systematic theoretical analysis of the methods applied to a field of study. Field of study, why I am talking about, because when you start exploring literatures, exploring a data related to vis-a-vis e-commerce, then you get huge number of data, and it could be the country centric, it could be the jurisdiction centric, it could be having a different format, because every country have got certain style of working, their way of procedure is different. So how you are going to apply, that is more important. So if somebody is doing the research in an Indian perspective, or the technological perspective, or just talking about the consumers of that particular jurisdictions, in that case the literature need to be revolves around that only. If you are talking about the consumers of India and exploring the data of the consumers of the Western world, I think this is where the research is going to be dismantled. So when you are talking about the research, when you are talking about this aspect, you have to be quite cautious, you have to be quite focused, that if your research is on the Indian consumers or the Indian consumer behaviors, then only your research revolves around, your data collection revolves around, or the literature revolves around the behavior of the consumer, and that too vis-a-vis the Indian scenario or Indian perspective. So so methodology always believes in the mathematics or the analysis or the modus operandi. It comprises the theoretical analysis of the body of methods and principles associated with the branch of knowledge, because and how it is going to be linked. And now other part is that since researchers are in big numbers, and these researchers are doing the research in a different part of the world. So if you talk about the Indian scenario, or you find out e-commerce is a upcoming term, or the very burgeoning term, or the technological India, or the consumers, Indian consumers who are doing shopping through internet. If you take this kind of examples, you find out this is a very burgeoning topic, and a lot of research is going on in this particular domain, and across the board you find out that every institutions or the research institutions, you find the learners who are who are in the undergraduate level or graduate level, or the postgraduate level or doctoral student, they are somewhere directly or indirectly doing the research in that. And some of the research are going to be overlapped now. So how your research is going to be different from others, that also need to be taken care, because if you are going to do a stereotype of research, ultimately what will happen, that it is more like the doing the research of the secondary data, which is no more fruitful. So that also need to be taken care, and for that reading a literature is going to play a very important role. When we are going to talk more about the methodology, we will see how this literature, choosing the literature is going to play a very important role, because the genesis behind the good research is the literature. And if your literature is fruitful and in a right track, review of literature in a right track, you will able to know that how the things are going to be done. So it encompasses concepts such as paradigm, theoretical model, phase, and quantitative or qualitative techniques. We will talk about more about what is the difference between quantitative and qualitative, and then we see that analysis, then modeling, then deployment, then prototyping is there, and a lot of technology is coming up, like machine learning, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology is something which was which was started with a Bitcoin or virtual currencies. Now it's going to play a very important role in research. We will definitely throw a light on that. And Internet of Things is there. So these are certain the buzzwords which are coming up in a present scenario, and talk about that how the things are going to be changed. And these cutting edge technologies, you observe that somewhere it's work as enablers. And when you're talking about the use of technology in research, you have to take in a very positive manner, and you have to see that how it is going to help the researchers. And one more important thing that could be required, that could be known to the researchers, that they always think technology as an enabler. It's not like that they should depend on the technology, because the backbone of any research is the literatures or a review of literature. And if the literature review is not going to be done in a proper manner, and there are certain modus operandi, there are certain methodology, there are certain procedures which can navigate the researchers, that how you're going to review the literatures. Because if you start exploring the literatures on the particular domain, like as far as the consumer behavior is concerned, or the e-commerce portal is concerned, or the research on the university students who are pursuing their education through online. So, and what their opinion about that, whether this virtual education is good, or the brick and mortar education is good, or it could having a blended model. So, and there is a paradigm shift now, and taste about the consumers or taste about the learners are changing. So somewhere we think what this virtual education is going to play a very important role, and somewhere this brick and mortar education is quite good. So how, and somewhere the amalgamation is very important. So how this combination is going to come, that is more important. So this requires research, and how and as far as the teachers are concerned, how the instructors are going to be linked with the learners, that is also more important. So research is having a different shape and kind, and it could be of various ways. So, and that is where the niche is going to matter, because if you are going to do the research, and if you are going to find the topic which is quite contemporary in nature and there is no repetitions. Now the $1,000,000 question is that, say I am a researcher and located in India, and somebody else is doing the research in other part of the world, and somewhere there is synonymity in the topic. And now, so how I'm able to know that the research which I am doing could be more innovative, and it is not going to redundant in the coming days. So this is where the literature is going to play a very important role. If you have strategically go through the literatures or explore the gap, then you can find out that who are the people who have written their articles, and because today trend talks about the technology, and whatever the writing is there, that is available on the web. So when people write the articles, when people float their articles, they put their footfall on the web, which could be cited, which could be appreciated by the different authors or different readers. So from there you are able to know that the trend is this and similar kind research is going on. So in India the biggest challenge is that still we believe in the creating the replica of what the Western world had done. So if you talk about the good institutions, if you talk about the upcoming institutions, we are still follow this kind of procedures where whatever the contemporary research which had been done in the Western world, we try to create a replica of that. That is no doubt a good thing, but we have to see how we are going to do the replica. Like the e-commerce trend was there in Western world in maybe a decade back or 2 decades back, but in India what happened, this is a phenomena which had recently been started, maybe 5 years or 7-8 years. So this trend had come up. Now if you are going to create a replica of the research which had been done by the foreign academicians, and you will find out that there must be certain change. There are spending habits which are different from the Western world. We still believe in the legal tender or the paper currencies, whereas they more believe in plastic money. When we are talking about the plastic money in India, they are talking about the wallets. When we are talking about the wallets in India, they are talking about the virtual currencies. So what I mean to say that this kind of trend had somewhat deviate the research, because the habits of the consumers, the inclination of the consumers towards the buying or other things which is changing with their. So this is a trend. So if you are going to initiate a research, if you are going to do a research in this particular domain, you have to see that this kind of habits also need to be imbibed. If we are going to imbibe this kind of habit, ultimately this could be a research which could be more genuine in nature. So genuinity is very important, because if the first hand information need to be collected from the individual, it should be collected from their heart. And when you're sending the floating the information, when you're floating the questionnaires to the individuals, you find out that majority of time the questionnaires are filled by someone else. So you won't get the real time information. So that is more important to get the genuinity. And when you are in the process of collecting the first hand information in the form of primary data, that need to be taken care. So there are certain methodologies which are playing a very important role in the present scenario. And the very good example is the e-commerce company examples. And when they sell any product from their portal, usually people used to log in and buy the product, and when they buy the product, they give their certain opinions, and these opinions are taken care by them in a very short span. It's not like that they extract all the information at one shot. So somewhere what happened, that they in the beginning stage takes just about what exactly you feel about the product, and how was your opinion about the product. So this kind of general questions, because being a consumer, they don't have time to fill 10 or 20 or the numerous questions. So rather than putting all the questions in one shot, they have just focus on 2-3 questions, and gradually they can take the opinion. So this is one of the way by which the things are going to be done, and methodology is going to play a very important role. So if you talk about the methodology research, you will find out that this methodology research is a research about the way we design, conduct, analyze, report and interpret research studies. And conducting methodology research studies will regenerate evidence improvement in the way we design and run studies. So methodology research is research on research. So that is very true, because when you start doing your research, and the journey started with reading literatures which is research or generated by the academicians or by the authors, then you are able to know that there are certain things which need to be incorporated or imbibed into it. Then finally what happens, you start try to put certain terms which are jurisdiction based, which are having certain features. From there this model need to be done. So this is basically the research which talks about that problem identification, review of available literature, then problem formulation, writing a research proposal, deciding the methodology, then sample selection and preparation of tools of data collection, collecting the data, analyzing and interpreting the data, and writing the research report. So what I observe, what we observe, that research starts with the problem and end with a final report. So when you are going to talk about the final report, you find out that that whatever the research you have done on the basis of the problem which you have diagnosed, then review of available literature, because this available literature is more important, and when you are exploring n number of literature, you come to know that there must be certain gaps, and this can give you the gap. And when you go more into the gap, you find out that on the basis of the gap, you frame certain objectives, and these objectives are somewhere converted into hypotheses and then questionnaires, and finally the things are going to be done. So these procedures definitely we are going to talk about, and then sample selection, because today, as I talked about, the data is quite gigantic in nature, and it's really cumbersome to talk about the data as a whole. So that is where the sampling is going to play a very important role, and how you're going to collect the sample, how you're going to extract the information from the universal, and concentrating on the certain portions. So there are certain procedures about the sample, and sampling could be done in a very systematic manner, so that all the jurisdictions which you are talking about, if your research is on a pan-India basis and you're talking more about the technological enabled commerce or e-commerce, then you have to take the certain cities or the states which revolves around that particular country. So, and if you eliminate any of the cities or the state, your research would be not foolproof. So that is something which is there in collecting the data, analyzing and interpreting the data, and then research reports. So this is all about research. This is just the curtain raiser to research and business research, and definitely we are going to talk more about in a coming sessions. So roughly we have almost 40 to 50 lectures on this research methodology, and which revolves around talking about the research, then methodology, then all the domains which is part and parcel of research, starting from literature review, then data analysis, interpretation, and other topics which somewhere going to help the researchers, or terminologies, we are definitely going to talk about that. So in our second session we will touch more aspects of this research, and gradually we will go on and on. Thank you very much.